Okay, so I think every region right now is trying to protect um its own state and interests, because recently the Ijaw group they have said the Fulani should be evacuated from the south if jihadists go ahead as threatened to attack Asaba, Abo, or any part of their state. They further mentioned that any suspected attack in the region, the resident Fulanis will be held responsible. So I think the Fulanis, what triggered this um, evacuation note is the fact that the Fulani jihadists threatened to invade the state, failure to reverse the ban on open grazing in 72 hours, just like you mentioned that the federal government is being focusing on the open grazing. So what do you think about this?
Just imagine, as I cited, Oyo State, and after the heinous crime, the raiding of the Fulanese militias in Oyo State, unfortunately, they were aided to escape through the instruments of the state. The policemen came around, and in the bid of arresting them, they were aided to escape the region into Ekiti State without being prosecuted. You see, each region should rise to the occasion. And mind you, the Deltans should understand that their problem is not the people, the perpetrators of this heinous crime are not the Fulani that are resident in those regions. These are militias that were imported into those states. You see, they were smuggled into the state probably during the night hours with the use of all these trailers and all that. Once they strike, they retire back. So the problem is not mainly, of course, the residents Fulani might harbor them, might give them some cover. But the fundamental issue, they should check the movements of the northern people into those regions. The influx of the northern youths and northern, of recent, most of the northern youths, about a score or so, were arrested, moving with ammunitions, moving down to the east. So the first thing is to begin to monitor the movements in and out of these regions. That is the first precautions that must be taken. Because if that is not checked, the attack remains inevitable. And once they strike, they have their routes, they find their way out of the state.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chigozie. Let's look at the parts that what Obasanjo said. He said one Nigeria. Okay, he said according to the retired general who spoke in Abeokuta, when he said, okay, I think they had he was invested with the fellowship of the Nigerian Institute of Surveyors. He said, I am a strong believer of one Nigeria, but not one Nigeria at all costs, but one Nigeria where every Nigerian can feel proud that he or she has a state in the country. He affirmed that Nigerians are better off together than going their separate ways. Now, looking at this, Obasanjo's regime and that of Buhari, which is more liberal, is there a similarity in the governance? Is there a comparison? So what do we think?
Well, I would describe it as bird of the same feather. You see, and there's no difference. Why? Because even during Obasanjo time, there were no rule of law. Most people's rights of expression and we are trampled upon, infringed upon. So it's just that this one is playing to the extreme. There's no difference. Of course, he brought him, so it's just the lives. And Obasanjo has been a core loyalist to the Fulani Caliphate. So he has the opportunity to fix or mend things. He has 3 consecutive time. First as the head of state, military head of state, second to tenure. He served as the president, elected president of Nigeria. He understood that things were not right. He has the executive order to have fixed so many things. If he had gotten it right in his time, we wouldn't have been complaining, we wouldn't have been here today. And there wouldn't have been an opportunity for a nomadic, a Fulani of such extraction to have assumed the lofty position as the president of Nigeria. He wouldn't have such opportunity. So he should rather be blamed. And it's unfortunate that whatever he's saying now is immaterial. Whether it's just his personal opinion anyway, which is entitled. And he's just one out of hundreds of 200 million Nigerians who are not happy with the system. And he has been a gross beneficiary of this flawed system. I mean, Obasanjo, look at during his time, how could you allow in a population of over 200, estimated about 200 million, how could you give one man license to import sugar, to import cement, to import other basic commodities? You just gave such a license to Dangote. Why you destroy other people's smaller business that are coming up? You see, you intentionally allowed such monopoly to monopolize the system. Likewise, he's trying to monopolize the Nigerian states to his own advantage because he knew that he has been a gross beneficiary of this system, flawed system. So when you see him speaking such, it is not far-fetched. Why? Because he understood his commitment, investments in Nigerian states. And he's afraid of losing such investments. And that will not be to the detriment of the people. You cannot, make such statements at the expense of the people. You're a strong believer of one Nigeria. What has one Nigeria to do with the agitation of people for referendum or for Oduduwa or Biafran state? People want to move forward. Nigeria is not moving forward. We are trapped in a wheel of motionless. And he is one of the cog in the wheel of the progress of this country. So such a person should not be taken seriously. See, people cannot continue to die. People cannot continue to be hacked to death. Even in its own Ogun State, most of the indigents are scoring for safety in the neighboring Benin Republic. And it's not moved, it's not disturbed by such a development. And it's quite unfortunate.
But then in his time, I think we had, there was a freedom of speech and some other freedoms. What do you think?
Freedom of speech?
Compared to now.
That is what I'm telling you. There is no difference between Obasanjo and Buhari. The only difference is that the atrocity or impunity was not as pronounced as this time. Maybe probably because of the religious background of Mr. Buhari, extremism, religious bigots. So I think that is just the only difference between Obasanjo and Buhari. It's quite unfortunate.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. So lastly, we're talking about the fact that Asari Dokubo has attacked Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. According to Asari Dokubo, he said Mazen Nnamdi Kanu he diverted funds that was donated to the Biafran struggle into his pockets. He alleged that Nnamdi Kanu has turned the Biafra struggle into a business. What do you think about this? What's your view?
There are people, when they speak, you don't you don't waste your saliva in discussing such issues. One of them is the person of Asari Dokubo. He has been an opportunist, of course. It's not new, and a propagandist, and is a mercenary to the Nigerian state. So when he's speaking from both mouths. So you shouldn't take him serious. And what we are in now is far more important. So we shouldn't entertain any distraction from either side, either from the Nigerian state or a servant of the Nigerian state, Asari Dokubo. Probably he was seeking for relevance and Nnamdi Kanu, of course, prior to this struggle, is a comfortable man who sacrificed his throne for the people. He sacrificed his comforts for the emancipation of his own people. Barely over 2 years he was in detention, just not for the offense he committed, but because of his love for his people, because of the empathy, because of the feeling, the pain his people were going through. That was what led him to prison. He was detained unjustly by the Nigerian state. What sacrifice has Asari Dokubo made for his people? That is the fundamental issue. Asari Dokubo has, of course, exploited his own people and is getting richer at the expense of his people. His people has no potable drinking water. They have no accessible road network. They have no infrastructure, no medical facilities within his domain. You see? At the expense of his own people, he collects the money and it ends up into his personal coffer. So that's why my people say that someone that behaves will not want a knife to go behind his head. That is just what is happening. If you are a hardened criminal, you will also suspect others that this man is also dubious as myself. So the problem is beyond what is focusing at this time. So I think the Biafran struggle have gone such level, start discussing of trivial issues.
So of course there is no what he's saying cannot even be reasoned.
At all, of course. He understood that in terms of popularity and influence, he's no match with Nnamdi Kanu. Who are his followers, by the way? That is how to know who is the man of the people. So Nnamdi Kanu remains the man of across the entire world. People celebrate him. He has loyalists. He has people who believes in him, in the cause and his ideology, which has been proven. He has been tested and been proven to be a man of the people, a circumstantial leader that could be trusted. But Asari Dokubo will be cornered one, and there will be an exchange of Ghana must go, and he will go and sit down, waiting for another time to back, so that something will fall from the federal coffers to his table, while his people are languishing in abject poverty. There's no means of livelihood. It's quite unfortunate. And such people could not be given an opportunity to lead, because their antecedents suggest that they don't deserve such opportunity, because if given such opportunity, they will destroy the people to build their own personal empire.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the recent happening. Biafra and Oduduwa freedom agitators from they formed joint security network to fight Fulani terrorists. Now, do you think they can pull this through without any betrayal? And do you think this is applauding too? What's your view?
Well, time will tell, but I think the step is highly commendable, and being that the situation we found ourselves suggests that we have to build a synergy between both nations so that they can achieve their aim and the objective of they have set out to accomplish. So, and it's very, very important at this time. So, it's a welcome development. It's more expected, and seeing it happening now, I think, is something everybody should appreciate, and especially when I mean everybody, I don't mean the Nigerian states. I know they see that as the greatest threat when both Biafra and the Duduan agitators come together to synergize. That becomes a very big threat to the Nigerian state. And at this time, they may not find it so funny. Why? Because you can see of recent the killing in Oyo State. Over 52 Yoruba indigenes were hacked to death by the Fulani herders. And none of the northern elders has condemned such dastard acts. And of course, nobody cares about that. I get to learn that even the Oba, or rather, not Oba, the Bale or Kabiesi of that community was also killed, and his home was razed down. You see, this indicates that the situation is no longer funny. I begin to ask, what are the OPC or Amateku doing at this time? They should up their games in defense of their own heritage, in defense of their own ancestral home, in defense of their own people. Otherwise, they risk being exterminated, and this is a gradual process, and the Fulani herders are bent at executing such program that has been sustained over a century now. You see, they find it an opportunity to perfecting such a diabolic agenda, and it's high time the Yorubas should rise to the occasion. And I hope that this synergy, this agreement between the Biafrans and the Oduduwa will be sustained, will not be betrayed by the few gullible ones who might infiltrate both parties to destroy the fabrics of such unity or synergy. I think it is a welcome development. Why? Because we share the same ideology, we share the same, relatively the same understanding, which is far different from what the Northerners or the Fulani oligarchy position. So I think it's very commendable. Now we are not focusing our energy in determining who might betray or not. So such energy should be channeled in how to consolidate this synergy to achieve the set out objective, which is primarily to protect the life and property of people within this region, and also to promote bilateral relationship that will engender prosperity, economic prosperity, and social acceptance among these two nations. So I see that as a very noble step, and it will pave a way for economic prosperity for both states.
But then, is this joint formation surprising to you? Did you ever imagine that the Oduduwa and Biafra would come together for such?
Yes, it is not a surprise to me. Why? Because no one is an island. So it depends on your neighbor to survive. So no man is independent of each other. So you can stand alone, it's possible, but you are better with another nation, another person. So, and you can share different ideas and brainstorm and come to a point of agreement on how to move both nations forward, because we need both nations need each other. So we shouldn't deny that, we shouldn't forget that too soon. So, and in a bid to consolidate, you know that we are fighting, of course, the Oduduwa and Biafrans are fighting a common enemy. So it is better they synergize so that they have a common front to throw their weight against the supposed enemy of their destiny and prosperity.
Okay, so as you mentioned earlier about the recent attack on in your state, so do you think this is why Sunday Igboho has given a fresh eviction note to notice to herdsmen in Southwest? He said they should vacate the region for their own good. So do you think this attack is what brought this fresh eviction note?
Well, I think Sunday Igboho has been within the public domain. He has been making assertions before now. So I think it's high time they back their words with action. Otherwise, they should expect the worst from the Fulani herders, Fulani militias. They are not threatened by the words of Sunday Igboho or whatever he might say tomorrow. They have not been saying anything different. So what they are bent at is destroying the indigenous people of this region and reoccupying the ancestral home. That is their focus, that is their agenda, that is their mission, and that defines the totality, the total being of a Fulani, an average Fulani person. So Sunday Igboho should go beyond mere threats or mere words. He should sit up and defend his own people if he really meant such. So it's not a time for political jingoism, political talks. Action speaks louder than voice. So when you speak less and you act more, you'll see of course the result of such actions.
Okay, you think we've heard this a lot of times already?
Yes, he has been on public domain, media and all that. He will do that, he will do this. It's high time he up his games. And besides, not just Sunday, but every average Yoruba man should understand that it's about the battle of survival. It's a battle of race, your own race. Otherwise, you risk being exterminated. I have said that time without number. If you don't stand up to the occasion, you will go down for the occasion. You see, there is no mincing words. You either fight to defend or sit back and get yourself down. So the best, according to one of is it a philosopher? So they say that the best way to defend is to attack. When you get you understood the mode of oppression. So why not get your people, the men on ground, You see, you only wait until when the damage has been done and you begin to rant, make noise. It doesn't send any message as far as I'm concerned. It makes no sense. You know that they do strike within the 3 hour of the day. I mean, mostly. And why not get your men? You went to sleep, and just to wake up to see that they have destroyed your farmlands, your ancestral homes, your people has been hacked to death, and you start wailing. What does that make? It doesn't make any sense. So a man of battle, a warlord, doesn't go to sleep. And I think you should understand that. It's high time they should up their games. It's no longer tolerated. It can no longer be tolerated. I mean, the innocent lives being wasted. The federal government have not made any comment about that. It's only interested in restoring the supposed gazetted grazing fields, which of course is not supported by any documents or legal document. So they just assumed and think they can overrun the southern region at the expense of the indigenous people of this region. They have, of course, a expanse of land which are lying fallow across the supposed 12 or thereabout states within the north. So why not make use of that? It's quite unfortunate.